Grant Robertson.
Mr Chair, for all of the bluster from Stephen Joyce and Paul Goldsmith about this wonderful set of economic plans that they have, it does pay to ask the question, what's it actually delivered? What's actually been delivered? Well, I can help the Minister out with a few facts. 146,000 people unemployed. That's what the Great National Economic Development Plan has delivered. That's an increase of 41,000 people unemployed since National came into office. But what's it delivered for young people in New Zealand? Well, that would be unemployment for those aged between 15 and 19 at 25%. One quarter of our young people unemployed. That's what Stephen Joyce's economic development plan has delivered. But how about for young Māori? How's it gone for young Māori? 38.3% of young Māori unemployed. That's the record of Stephen Joyce's economic development. 43.5% of young Pacifica people unemployed under this government. Nearly half young Pacifica people unemployed. And the National Party speakers in this debate have liked to stand up and say this terrible legacy that was left by the Labor government. Well, I remember one important legacy left by the Labor government, the second lowest unemployment in the OECD. That's the legacy, down around 4%. And where is it now? Up over 6%, and if they hadn't exported 200,000 people to Australia, would be well over 8%. So that's what the great economic development plans that Mr Joyce outlined has delivered. But what would a real economic development plan look like? Well, it would be hands-on, and it would say, firstly, at the big picture level, the settings aren't right. The old trickle-down theories haven't worked. The merchant banker's way of running the economy failed. The National Party might have failed to recognise it, but times have changed. Things have moved on. We need an economy that's based on building, not on selling things. That's based on investing in young people so that they get training opportunities. Stephen Joyce finally woke up to that in January this year and said, yes, we should train a few people. Finally. That's after 4 years of letting training opportunities go, of seeing industry training numbers collapse, of not investing in apprenticeships so there aren't people to take on that work in Christchurch, and we do then have to find people from overseas to come in and do it. That's what a real economic development plan would look like. It would say, if we're going to have $30 billion of government contracts in a year, we're going to give Kiwi firms a fair crack at that. We're going to make sure that Kiwi firms get a fair go, and that if they do get those contracts, they'll take on apprentices. We're going to make sure that we'll convert the dole for 18 and 19-year-olds into a subsidy for apprenticeships. We're going to make sure that there are real training opportunities so we have the skilled workforce that will make New Zealand a productive place. We're going to say that we will invest in small businesses, we will reduce the compliance cost from that. And David Clark has been touring around New Zealand talking to small business owners, and they have been let down by this government because they're not the big end of town, they're not the Sky City, they're the people who are toiling away. And Paul Goldsmith stands up there today and says they're the people who we need to look out for. Well, what those small businesses need is a government that will actually invest in creating skilled labour, that will make sure that there's opportunities there for them to develop, that will give them a fair go at research and development funding, that will make sure that they've got the ability to create new businesses. That comes from having a hands-on government. It does not come from having a government that thinks it can sit back and allow the old, tired, trickle-down economics to try and work. That is the failure of this government, that they are locked in an ideology that's 20 years out of date. It's time for the government to get alongside businesses, to get alongside communities, to say inequality is a drain on our economy. It's morally wrong, it's socially wrong, but inequality is a drain on our economy. Simon O'Connor wants to do something about inequality. Well, what he should do is say that the tax cuts that National brought in increased it. If he admitted that, that would be a start. The reality is this government doesn't want to do anything about inequality. This government is failing the young people of New Zealand, it's failing the regions of New Zealand, and it's letting the gap between rich and poor grow. Only a Labour-led government will have the policies to turn that around, to invest in our regions, to invest in our young people, and make the changes to monetary policy that are needed. That would be a proper economic development policy.
Mr Chair.
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Chair, I appreciate that Mr Robertson's doing a leadership
citizenship application at the moment.